This is the Alhambra in Granada at dusk. There's a boring sky and blocked up shadows. Now watch me turn this flat raw file into a cinematic dust shot using Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop's sky replacement feature. Plus stick around for 5 Granada travel tips that you may actually use. The Alhambra was built by the Nasrid dynasty in the 13th to 14th centuries. The palace and the fortress architecture and the complex geometry inside make it an absolute paradise for photographers. After a daytime tour, I captured this dusk shot from a viewpoint that I'll link in the description as one of my 5 travel tips. But first, let's dive into the edit. So we're looking at a series of dusk images of the Alhambra in Granada in southern Spain. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and it's a stunning place to visit. I really cannot recommend it enough. Now you can see that I shot a number of segments of the building with a 7200 2.8 lens with the intention of creating a high-resolution panorama. But for this video, we're just going to work on an image that contains the whole scene. Now we're currently in Bridge, so let's take this through into Adobe Camera Raw. And this was an image that I shot at ISO 100 on a Canon 5 DSR with a 24 to 70mm lens, f11, and it was a 4-second exposure. Now, as per usual, I like to begin my processing top to bottom. I do, as per usual, bypass the temperature and tint until I have made my final adjustments. I will then come back and decide if I need to change anything here. But I do this simply because anything I do to vibrance, saturation, contrast can affect my color perception. So we'll come back to that very last of all. I will add some vibrance. Vibrance, remember, touches the undersaturated tones whilst protecting things like skin tones. And so it's not a global adjustment, whereas saturation is a global adjustment. And I'll add about 5 or 6 points as a starting point for my landscape images. Now, you'll notice from the histogram, this is an underexposed image slightly. So what I want to do is bring up the exposure and just even that histogram out. That's better. I can now see more into the shadow areas as well. It's a contrasty image, so I don't think I'm going to need to add global contrast. I'm going to be doing that anyway with the white and black sliders. But I do want to drop back the highlights, and you'll see that this starts to bring some interest back into the sky. I mean, it's a very dull, flat sky anyway. Part of the problem when you're traveling is you often don't have the luxury of saying, well, this is a great building, I'll stay here for the next 4 or 5 nights and get a good shot. You don't always have that luxury, obviously. In this instance, I was only here for 1 night. When I drop back the highlights, you can see that it does bring out these 2 irritating dust spots in the sky, so we'll come back and fix those a little later. Now let's just bring up the shadows, and I don't want to go too much because it will affect my sky. This is a global adjustment, remember. Bring up my whites and drop back my blacks, and that will give me that contrast in the image. So if I press the P key, you can see that's a pretty good starting point. Okay, so that's not too bad. Now we want some clarity, which is mid-tone contrast, and I'll give that about 20 points there, and that just increases the mid-tone contrast within the image. I will vignette the image slightly, but I might do that at the end, or I should say I may vignette the image, but I'll do that at the end. Let's come down, and there is some noise in the image, even though it's shot at ISO 100, because there's noise in every image, inherent in every image. But this was shot using a long exposure at night, and I've underexposed it slightly. So there's a little bit more noise than you would notice if this was a daytime shot. There isn't enough to worry me, though, in this instance, and I may well replace the sky later, so I'm going to leave that for now. What I do want to do is sharpen the image. Now, I obviously just pointed out the noise in the sky. I don't want to sharpen the sky. So what you want to do before you sharpen anything is consider the masking slider. If I hold down the optional Alt key and drag the masking slider to the right, you'll see that anywhere in the image that is black is where the sharpening will not be applied, and anything that is white, any of the white lines, is where the sharpening will be applied. And that's exactly what we want in this image. So if I leave that there and now drag up my sharpening, I tend to work on around about 80 points of sharpening for most of my raw files. And this is a good mid-sharpening point for the process, because if I were to take this image just to a website, that would probably be enough to give it a good-looking web-ready image. If I'm going to make a large print, then no, I may well go in and selectively sharpening, using Topaz Sharpen, selectively sharpen part of the building. But this leaves me with options, and I like to sharpen as I go throughout the process. Now, if I come down to optics, I do remove chromatic aberration, and I also use profile corrections. Now, built into Adobe, Adobe has the profile corrections and knows the characteristics of most of the lenses that are on the market today. For example, in this instance, I've used the 2470, and it knows to remove the lens's characteristics of vignetting and the distortion in the center on the sides, and it applies a correction based upon that lens's design. That's a good starting point. Now come back up to the top and let's address these two spots first of all before we mask. Click on the remove tool. I want to use the heal and healing brush, and that just basically selects our surrounding pixels and uses those to mask the dust spots. Perfect. Now we want to mask the image and apply selective edits. So I'm going to start with the sky. Click on the sky, and we'll notice in the sky here, what we want to do, I'll just undo the last settings. What we want to do is drop back the exposure. So let's bring that sky down to be a little bit darker and a little bit more interesting. And we'll bring the highlights down a little bit too. Might bring up the whites slightly to bring up those highlights on the right-hand side. That's not bad. I mean, it's still a boring sky, and we'll see if we can't fix that in a moment. Now, having addressed the sky, now what I want to do is bring out some shadow details in the foreground. So I'm going to create a new mask, and the easiest way to do that in this instance, if I select subject, it just selects one of the towers in the image. So click on that, and it's literally just selected this tower here. Well, clearly that's not what I want to do, so I'm going to undo that and get rid of that mask. And what I want to do is, the easiest way to do this is to select the sky again, and I'll undo the last few settings, and now invert that mask. And you'll notice it's made a pretty good selection of the foreground area and the architecture. So if I bring up my shadows, and yeah, I'm going to drop my highlights back a little bit because it's starting to encroach on the little bits of highlight on the spotlights on the brick. And I don't want those to blow out. So bring that up, bring up my shadows a little bit. Might drop back my blacks a little and bring up my whites a little. And yeah, that's not bad. That gives me that opens up those shadow areas quite nicely. And I don't want it all the way through the rooftop here, which I'm going to try and crop anyway. Just in case I can't, let's use a brush. And we're going to make this harder brush. So shift and right square bracket key to make the brush softer, I should say, not harder. And let's just brush away on that mask to subtract that adjustment there. So I don't want the eye drawn there. Okay, so that's not bad. If we come back out to the General Processing tab, before, after, before, after, before. Okay, we can see that's not bad. I do want to see what I can do with this sky though. Before I continue with that, let's just crop the image. I want to get rid of this rooftop. Let's bring it in. I want to maintain this tower or turret here. And I want to come to the wall line here. So let's get rid of that. That's not bad. Yep. There we go. Okay, so that gets rid of that foreground element that I don't particularly enjoy. I will use a radial gradient here just to darken the foreground a little bit more. A linear gradient. And I'll reset the gradient and just drag up there. And let's just darken that off a little. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so let's see if we can do something with this sky. Now, I could try a sky replacement. I may well do that in a moment. But first of all, let's try a radial gradient. So I select the radial gradient. I'm going to undo the last selected settings. You can do that automatically. You can say, don't use the last selected settings if you want. It's just something I find I like having it on. Okay, so let's select this area where the sun was going down. It's there, fairly imperceptible, but it is slightly lighter on this side. And let's see if we can't add some color and tint to this area of the image. And so now if I make any adjustments, it's going to affect obviously the foreground as well. That's not what I want. So we'll subtract and we'll use the landscape to subtract itself from my mask. I do want the effect applied to the sky. I don't necessarily want it, actually no, I'll leave it on the mountains. I don't want it on the architecture. I don't want it on the vegetation. I don't want it on the natural ground. So let's create that. And now we'll see if I bring up my temperature slider, it's giving that sort of sun going down effect. Just bring up some tint as well. And that's a slightly more interesting effect than just the sky on its own. So it gives it that sort of sunset glow in the corner there. And that's not bad. I think we can probably do better than this though if we do a sky replacement. So let's undo that. I'll get rid of this particular mask. And I'm going to delete this mask. And let's open this in Photoshop and try a sky replacement instead. Now, I always like to duplicate the layer just so I've got a safety background layer there, if you will. So I've duplicated this layer and I come up to Edit and I'm going to try a sky replacement. Now, my suggestion would be I've selected one of Adobe's skies that it has pre-packaged in the software. My suggestion would be that if you're doing a lot of sky replacements, definitely create your own sky replacement folder on your desktop or somewhere on your computer where you can access it easily, and go out and shoot some interesting skies. If you have a dramatic sunset, go out and shoot it. You never know when you can use it in an otherwise dull and flat image. So I'm going to select this particular one, this particular sky, say OK, and I'm certainly not going to leave it like that. The next thing I want to do is select this layer, and I'm going to apply a filter to it. So we're going to go to the blur, and we're going to go motion blur. It's going to sort of simulate a long exposure, if you will. Now, you can mess around with the distance, which basically increases how much the blur is applied to the image. I found around about 875, 900. That works quite well on this particular shot. And as you can see, I'm getting it to feel like it's coming from the mountains going sideways, or from the city going sideways. And I can change the angle. Obviously, you wouldn't do this. It just looks ridiculous. But just sort of following the line of the horizon gives me a pretty good result. Now, I click OK there. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That's not a bad sky replacement. It's certainly more interesting than the one I originally had. I think we can leave it there with this image. So that's how I took this Alhambra Dusk shot from a flat raw to the final cinematic image. As a quick recap, I opened in Camera Raw for global balance, used masks to bring midtone and shadow detail back, and then in Photoshop did a precise sky replacement, combining it with a motion blur filter for an arguably more interesting long exposure look. However, it is of course subjective. I'd love to know your thoughts on the sky replacement feature. Is it too much? Are you a purist and believe you should only show it as it really was? Now, I think you can guess my approach, but please let me know your thoughts down below. I love hearing from other photographers and hearing their opinions. Now, here are 5 quick tips for when you do visit Granada and the Alhambra. Tip number 1, fairly obvious I guess, but booking tickets in advance is essential, especially during peak seasons. And I do recommend a guided tour. You learn so much and it really is a very fascinating building. Now, tip number 2, use Mirador de San Nicolas for the classic Alhambra skyline shot. It's the unbeatable sunset viewpoint and it's where I took this one from. Tip number 3, following on from that, I would recommend a short walking loop. So from the Alhambra to Albayzín to Sacromonte. You can start at Mirador de San Nicolas, then explore Albayzín's narrow streets and finish in Sacromonte for elevated views and the traditional cuevas, which are homes carved into the soft hillside rock. I'll link a simple route in the description below. Tip number 4. Now, Granada is rightly famous for its tapas culture. Many bars serve a complimentary tapa with a drink, and you absolutely must try the jamón serrano, which is cured ham from white pig breeds as opposed to the black pigs of jamón ibérico. Equally delicious. Please excuse my pronunciation. Tip 5. Finish the day with a Sacromonte flamenco cave show for a touristy, authentic local performance. or unwind in one of Granada's restored Arab baths for a Moorish-inspired spa experience. Now, thank you for joining me on this edit. If it has been useful, then please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next one.